Thursday night, look who's in the house. It's time for Dieter, and we've already in the green room have hatched out. Dieter has one of the great overly negative takes of all time.
Y'all ain't ready.
We're talking Niners. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle and Better and our good friends at Sharp Corners. Let's go right now. Let the negativity begin. All right, welcome to the Krueger Show. Fire up the band. There we go. Turn it up. A little higher. A little more. There we go.
Here's some negativity. This guy needs to learn a new goddamn chord.
We don't have to go with this music. We have options.
Do it now. Oh, there we go. That's a nice little lick.
Hey.
Yeah, nothing says Larry Krueger like this music.
Hey, we're getting it going.
To the Quiet Storm.
On a Thursday. How you feeling out there?
Cuddle up to your baby.
I could have done it. I could have been a soul DJ in Chicago. That was the original goal. Then they saw me.
We got a stop set of nothing but love. All right. We got this. We go with this. It's got a nice little thing to it.
That's interesting.
This.
That sounds like something that comes out of one of my daughter's toys. Are we sure this isn't Fisher Price? Is that the band, Fisher Price?
It takes too long to get ramped up. Then there's this one. I like this one. These are the StreamYard options.
Oh.
Hey.
Again, I mean, just deep experimental post-funk house.
What if we did the entire show with this in the background? It would change the vibe, wouldn't it?
Wow. It'd be really difficult to have strong opinions about the offensive line with this music happening, Lair.
Let's talk Shanahan.
Yeah. I think they should trade him to Chicago.
Purdy or Darnold.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
he has small hands.
Small hands. He can't handle a wet ball. All right. Welcome to the Krueger Show. It's Thursday night. Dieter's in the house for our regular Thursday night stream. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. From 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. We're going to do another meet and greet during the NFL playoffs. So look for the info on that. And if you're in the North Bay or anywhere in the Bay, stop by, have some barbecue, have a beer. Let's chat it up and talk some ball. With no Niners in the playoffs, we can do that this year. And we're also brought to you by just in Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California. You say, where's that? That's right along the Monterey Peninsula. Go see my friend Anthony Catania if you want sports cards or collectibles. He's at 831-521-5264. It was great seeing Anthony at the Niner game the other night, despite the loss. And thanks to Better, this live stream is sponsored by them. The official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show is Better. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Dieter and I have done it in the past, and we'll do it tonight. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. And thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krueger Show. All right. Let's just get right into it. There was a soundbite from earlier today. Cowherd had Julian Edelman on. And
Love Edelman.
They kind of brought up an interesting thing. They're talking about Purdy again in the contract. Everybody just loves this. It's like people act like it's like they're going to be somehow impacted by this guy's salary. I mean, it's kind of at some point, it's almost like, you know, I don't
think we're allowed, Larry. We're about to make about 6 months worth of revenue off of this contract. I don't think we should be setting ourselves up for failure right now. I get you. It's pocket watching. And at a certain point, it is weird, but we got to milk this thing for all it's worth.
No, I know. And we will. We'll put an udder on that bitch.
There we go.
We'll milk it to the death. No,
take her out to Amish country.
Here's the thing, though. It is a little weird. It's like, you're going to hear Cowherd here be like, you know, you can't have ifs if you're a $50 million quarterback. But guess what? Almost every $50 million quarterback, from Dak Prescott to Justin Herbert to Trevor Lawrence to Tua Tagovailoa to Jalen, there's questions about all these guys. And it's like,
there's questions about all but 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, Larry.
Right. So it's like, but I mean, it's Edelman makes an interesting point. He says we were going to find out this year if Brock's a $30 million quarterback or a $50 million quarterback, and he's making it seem like he's a $30 million quarterback. And then Cowherd's like, I just can't pay this guy $50 million. Let's play it, and then we'll react. Here it is.
Ed, I like Brock Purdy. You start talking 50 large, I don't like Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
I'd go Sam Darnold at 40 for 3 years over Brock at 55. And I think if you look at almost all, now wide receivers different. They come third round, fifth, sixth, seventh. Take out Brady. You look at most great quarterbacks. Right now, of the 14 playoff quarterbacks, 12 are first rounders.
Yeah.
Hurts is a second rounder. You drop to the seventh for a reason. Scouting is much more sophisticated today than 15 years ago and 20 years ago when Tom went. It's hard to find a sleeper. People like Purdy, but he was reckless. He was small. He struggles in wet weather. I can't pay him big money. I know he wins. I can't.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
If there's a 5 in there, starting with a 5, that's going to be tough because of what we're seeing with Sam Darnold in Minnesota. I mean, this is his backup last year with the players and the semi-similar scheme that they have, and we're seeing what Sam Darnold is this year. I do agree that the 7th round thing, I specifically remembered I felt if I was drafted in the 3rd or the 4th round,
Yes.
I would have made probably 40% more money, but because I was a 7th rounder, I always got labeled with that. And, I don't know if that's going to be different with Brock, but just through this whole year, I remember going and talking about on kickoff in week 5 when they were going through a bit of adversity, they were starting to drop guys. I said specifically, this year will determine whether you're a $30 million quarterback or a $50 million quarterback. And through the whole year, it looks more like he's a $30 million quarterback, which is a great quarterback. He's a good football player.
Yes.
But we're seeing his limitations when guys aren't playing and when there's excuses. What did Sean Connery say? Excuses are for losers. Winners are the guys who go home and take the prom. That's the thing.
I always use the if rule.
Yeah.
If you're a quarterback that's an if, like Josh Allen is great, Brady's great, good weather, bad weather. If you're an if quarterback, 2 is the ultimate if. If it's warm, you're at home, have protection, an offensive coach, and are healthy. Excellent. A lot of ifs. Brock struggles in wet weather, struggles without McCaffrey, struggles playing in the 4th quarter, especially behind. There's a lot of qualifiers. If the first number's 5, you can't be an if guy.
You can't. And this is a product of this whole system.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at it, Tua's in the same system.
Yep.
Brock's in the same system.
Yep.
Jimmy G's in the same system.
Accurate, but nothing.
Timing. Yeah, exactly. And the only one who really has manifested the whole thing and won the Super Bowl is Matthew Stafford, who wasn't born in the system, who was born in a drop-back system that went to this system, the West Coast system.
And he's one of the all-time great arms.
And he's one of the all-time great arms.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole Shanahan-McVay system, it's a very quarterback-friendly system that allows guys to go out and get high production. Now, it's going to cost you when you have to go sign them because of that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. First off, that got off the rails there at the end.
It got going there for a bit. The first thing is the early in the video.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll play the first 5 seconds one more time.
Oh, Jesus.
Here.
Okay.
Here we go. Oh, I guess I will not.
It's where he's saying he loves Brock Purdy.
I like Brock Purdy.
No, yeah, that's
you start talking 50.
No.
Talking 50 large. I don't like him as much.
Let him go for 5 more seconds.
I don't like Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
I'd go Sam Darnold at 40 for 3 years over Brock at 55. And I think if you look at almost all
there
now,
you go. That's what he threw out. He'd rather go with Sam Darnold at 40 than Brock at 55. And you know what? That's not that to me is an interesting discussion point because I think it's fair. I don't like Cowherd, but you know what? I think overall, there are people out there that would agree with him, that would rather have Sam Darnold at 40 than Brock Purdy at 55. I mean, this is kind of the way the NFL is as far as Purdy's eligible for a contract extension this offseason, even though he was the last pick in the draft, because he's a franchise quarterback. It's like the question is like, will they pay him at the top of the scale, which is probably what his agent is going to ask for, which would be $60 to $65 million,
right.
which, Bill Barnwell said that's what he's going to get, $325 million. So, the question is, what's he worth? And will the Niners pay him the most? Will they pay him 50? I heard a video the other day with Richard Sherman. He's like, hey, he's getting 50. He's getting 50.
Of course he is.
I don't know. I know I haven't talked to his agent about this contract, but I know people that have talked to his agent, and the agent's not interested in the 4 years, 120, it's all cash, or 3 years, 120, it's $40 million a year. He's not taking $40 million a year AAV. He's not.
He should.
I mean, there's no reason for it. I don't understand why Brock wouldn't just be paid what everybody else gets paid, as far as, why does he have to take less than Tua? Why is Tua better than Brock Purdy? I mean, all these guys that are making north of 50 million. I did a video on this, and Kev put it out, and it's doing really well right now. And it's basically just illustrates the fact that all these guys who are making the 50 million plus, they're all not really that accomplished compared to Purdy. So
you mean the guy who's been to 2 NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl in his first 2 years starting?
Yeah, I mean, but like nobody's seemingly worried about paying, these other guys big money. But when it comes time to pay Brock big money, it's like, oh my God, if you pay him big money, you're cooked. And it's like, hey, you know what? You better grasp the idea of this guy making $50 million, because I unless I'm missing something here, he is absolutely worth $50 million in this market.
Yes. So let's start with that. Cowherd's out here saying, oh, if I have to say if, I don't want to pay a guy 50. Does he not say if about Jared Goff, who has an incredible offensive line, can't move, incredible offensive performer, incredible offensive-minded offensive coordinator? He doesn't say if about Tua. Okay. He doesn't say if about Jordan Love. I'm a big Jordan Love guy. I think the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl. But if you watch Jordan Love and you don't go, I can't trust this guy. This guy's bipolar on the field. He's wild. He's exciting. It's fun. And you think that you can, pretty woman him and get him. I can fix him. I can make this work. Okay, that's fine. If you somehow don't have any questions about Jordan Love, we're watching a different sport. If you have no questions about Trevor Lawrence, you're not paying attention. You don't have questions about Jalen Hurts? No questions about Jalen Hurts this year, right? But Jalen Hurts had a bad year last year.
You already mentioned Tua. Tua had 4 turnovers last Sunday. 4.
Right. Dak Prescott, you don't have any questions about Dak Prescott? All of those guys are $50 million quarterbacks. Okay?
Dak is 60.
Right. So the idea that, okay, Patrick Mahomes makes 45. Well, he also has this phony baloney contract with all the years. Like, that's not happening. Okay? Joe Burrow makes 55. Everybody I listed off right there, I think the only one you would trade Brock Purdy for is Jordan Love. And that's a conversation to be had, right? That's not a lock, stock, and barrel, pull the trigger trade. You're not trading him for Jared Goff. You're not. You're not trading him for Tua. Sure as hell not. You're not trading him for Trevor Lawrence. You're not trading him for Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, at least. I'd like a quarterback who can actually throw on the run, but, maybe there's a conversation there. You're not trading him for Dak Prescott. You might trade him for Jordan Love because he's young and is explosive in all the right and all the wrong ways. He's not Herbert. He's not Burrow. He's not Mahomes. He's not Allen. Maybe he's not Stafford. Sometimes he's better than Stafford. Sometimes he's not. But then to this other point that Cowherd made, oh, scouting is so much better. Explain Trey Lance then, or Anthony Richardson, or Marcus Mariota, or Baker Mayfield, who's on his 4th flipping team, right? Explain to me Bryce Young, 1-1 overall. If scouting is so good, how come these first-round quarterbacks don't always hit? Why is Dak Prescott, who I believe was a 4th-round quarterback, out here getting top of the market? Jordan Love, 2nd-round pick, or late first. He was late first. Apologies on that one. Why are we having Why aren't we having the conversation about other highly picked quarterbacks? You're allowed to miss at the top. You should be allowed to win at the bottom. That is only fair. It is a crapshoot. Sure, scouting is better. That doesn't mean they're perfect. And if they were perfect, we wouldn't have to ask if Anthony Richardson could complete a 7-yard out pass, right? We wouldn't have to ask if Bryce Young can play in the NFL. And he didn't need a car accident to get a starting job back. Let's go to the Darnold Purdy thing, because I think that's the most pertinent one. What I don't understand about that conversation is two things. One, these guys were on the same team last year, and not a single rational person associated with the 49ers suggested that Sam Darnold would have been a better option than Brock Purdy last year. Okay?
Remember how outraged people were in training camp when Kyle Shanahan came out and basically indicated that Darnold was in front of Lance? It was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Right. And then
People
you had
lost their minds with that.
You had people who want to shift the Overton window to get attention, because that's the only thing in our current media economy, and say, oh, Darnold should start over Purdy. But they're probably saying that Josh Dobbs should start over him now too, and it will never end in perpetuity. It will never be good enough, because that would actually require them to come up with an original opinion or actually watch some tape. So let's leave those people out of the conversation, and let's talk about the strange dichotomy of both of these quarterbacks. Sam Darnold is having an exceptional year. Now, I don't know if it's statistically that much better than Brock Purdy's year, given that he throws a ton of interceptions. He is a ticking time bomb to throw one at any time, but Brock has certainly not performed well. So Sam Darnold is going to get paid in the very small middle class of quarterbacks. Sam Darnold is going to enter it next year for some team, be it Minnesota or someone else. But why is it that Sam Darnold doesn't get any demerits for having arguably the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL right now in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, who are both just playing out of their gourds? He has TJ Hawkinson. He has Aaron Jones. And, he has, I would say, the best play caller in the NFL. And I would have said that last year, too. I think KOC is next level. I think he's as good as it gets. I love watching his stuff.
KOC for you non-hardcore, Kevin O'Connell.
He's the head coach of the Vikings. Apologies. So Sam Darnold has all of that. But when Brock Purdy had all of that last year, well, now he's just a byproduct of the system. So what does that make Sam?
It's not Brock, it's the Avengers.
So what does that make Sam Darnold now? Okay, a middle-tier quarterback. That's fine. So maybe they're both middle-tier quarterbacks. I venture to say that Brock Purdy has a better track record. And so I see that Brock Purdy, everything is volatile for him. Nothing is his situation is fluid. Right? Everything is up in the air. But for Sam Darnold, it's static. So Brock Purdy can make $60 million one week or $40 million the next. Everything is on the table price-wise. But for Sam Darnold, he's just locked in middle class. It's impossible that anyone would pay Sam Darnold more than $40 million if he hit the market. Apparently, this guy's as good as Brock Purdy in many people's eyes, and yet he'll make significantly less. How does that make any damn sense? Why is it that Sam Darnold isn't privy to the goals of the market and a bidding war and driving prices up, even if irrationally? Why is it that applies to only Brock Purdy in this scenario? Oh, well Brock
you're
will
only worth what somebody's willing to pay. That's period. I mean, so
right.
It doesn't, there's no law. You're right.
But
Sam Darnold could get a record-setting offer. If Sam Darnold played so well this year that we were all totally convinced that he, and not Patrick Mahomes, was the best quarterback in football, he would get a monster record-breaking deal,
100%.
Regardless of his bust status in Carolina and with the Jets,
right.
And his reclamation project status with the 49ers. He would get a monster deal. But that's not kind of where we're at. So it is interesting because, there's lots of people that, were sickened at the idea that Sam Darnold was better than Trey Lance a year ago, and now are like, get rid of Purdy and go get Sam Darnold and make him your starter.
Watching.
And look, all I look at is Sam Darnold next year throwing balls to Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and Jawan Jennings, along with George Kittle, going to be better than, behind this offensive line or a similar offensive line? Is that going to be better than Brock Purdy, who at least has mobility? I think Brock Purdy's mobility has provided a stat that makes the Niners offensive line look good and grayed out better than it is, because he's holding the ball longer. It's just in his hand longer. But we all know that it's in his hand longer because he's got to change his launch point, I would say, on at least 35-40% of his throws, because he drops back to pass. His guys aren't open. They're not opening up early. He's buying extra time to try to give them time to free themselves open, but he can't stay in the pocket because the pocket caves in. So he's moving around, and then all of a sudden he's holding it on average of 3.05 seconds. And people are like, see, it's a really good offensive line. No, it's not.
No,
it's not a really good offensive line.
I'm telling you, people aren't watching this. I don't know what people are watching.
Most of any team in any quarterback in the league.
And as you noted, wide receivers who cannot separate against press man to man or don't know what the hell they're doing against zone. Meanwhile, again, it should be noted, I'm just going to hammer this point home. Sam Darnold has Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and the best offensive play caller in football, and he still has more interceptions this year while playing every game than Brock Purdy. He still has a worse QBR this year than Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is out here trying to force feed Deebo Samuel because Deebo tweeted on a Monday, and that's the script this week. He's trying to get the ball any way, shape, or form he can to Juwan Jennings because it's the only receiver he trusts. And listen, I'm not exonerating Brock for bad play. He was miserable. He was miserable against the Rams, and the weather thing is real until he proves it otherwise. But, Sam Darnold's playing in a dome for his home games. Let's see him out there in the elements and see what happens. Sam Darnold has been handed a perfect situation, and good on him for maximizing it. But if maximizing it means that you have the 14th best QBR in the NFL and you have 11 interceptions on the season, yeah, great. You have 29 touchdowns, but I'm also looking at a guy who's not even completing 70% of his passes in this offense. Meanwhile, Brock's completing 65, and you find me the open guy outside of number 14.
Yeah, I mean, the other question, so if it came down to Brock Purdy for $55 million or Sam Darnold for 40,
yeah,
I don't like those options. I got to be honest. I don't love those options. I still would rather have Brock Purdy than Sam Darnold for a lot of the reasons we've expressed.
Yeah.
But there is, if Brock, to me, people say, well, how's this going to go? I don't know, because I don't know if these two sides are truly motivated and want to get a deal done and can bridge their differences quickly, or if this is going to be a small-time agent trying to use his last pick in the draft client to vault himself into the top tier of agents by getting him record-setting money. And this is his golden goose. Is Brock Kyle Strongen's golden goose here? Is he going to try desperately to make some record-setting deal? Or does he really want to be a Niner? Is he gonna come in? Does he really want to win? There's also what's good for your team.
Yeah,
Mahomes is making $45 million. Brady took less and restructured. If you really badly want to win, in a cap sport, it's easy to see that you probably can't say you want record-setting money,
right, and
also say you're all about the win. So Brock Purdy is all about the win. So I don't think he's going to want necessarily record-setting money. I might be wrong by that.
I don't care about the AAV. What I care about is the ability to get out of the deal in 2 or 3 years if you so desire. Because if you're a great quarterback, you're just going to get restructured and re-signed, and you can always go back to the market. You could play it out as 1-year deals in perpetuity. You could go the full Kirk Cousins, and you can do it in a way where there's not really a risk to you because you're signing contracts that have limited guarantees. And if you're the man, you're going to go back a year after and say, hey, let's restructure. Give me some money up front and we'll figure it out. Add another void year while we're at it. And what are they going to say? You can play this thing for all it's worth. So if you need to do what Diamador Lenore did, which is, hey, I got $92 million. But if you actually look under the hood on it, you go, I think he got 17. Well, that's fine because people aren't even watching the games, clearly. Why the hell would they look at the contract or even find out what's in the contract? So if Brock feels or his agent feels some sort of way as it pertains to vanity about setting the market, go to town because the truth is what's under the hood. And for the 49ers, with the way that he's played this year with his injury luck over the last couple of years, just his size lending itself to the argument that this might not be the best long-term option for you if you're thinking 5, 6, 7 years. I need to make sure that I have an out after a couple of years because, the Daniel Jones deal seemed great at the time too. And look where they're at now. But at least they have that out. Do they wish it was a year earlier? Hell yeah. But it's out now. It's over. You can move on. No stress, no fuss. That's the same thing you have to have for Brock. And if that costs you a little bit more to have that flexibility on the back end, go ahead and pay it because I'm looking at Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff, and Joe Burrow might not be a good example because the Bengals are cheap. I'm looking at, Trevor, those teams, these quarterbacks at the top, I don't see the rest of the team falling off in terms of paying guys. The Eagles went out and they just added Saquon Barkley this past offseason. They have two $20 million receivers. They have the best offensive line in football. If Jared Goff doesn't have the best offensive line in football, and I just don't see, two great receivers for Tua. So this idea that, you're paying a quarterback all this money, you're going to lose something. I'll tell you, the Niners are going to lose something this offseason no matter what because all of their middle-class deals need to get off the damn books anyway because those guys aren't even living up to those middle-class deals. So you're clearing the deck anyway. I don't care about paying Brock Purdy. There's always ways to finagle this salary cap. You pay him what you have to pay him because, again, while it's fun and easy and to hang out in this conceptual realm of Darnold for 40 or Brock for 55, which, of course, is not how it will play out in a million years because both of these guys are subject to the same forces of the market. But while we can do that, a reminder that the alternative is nothing. So how much are you willing to pay to avoid the pain of nothing? And Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, there might have been a time where they were comfortable heading into the abyss of we don't have a quarterback and we got to figure this out on the fly. I mean, even the Vikings weren't, right? They drafted J.J. McCarthy, but they're not in that position of strength anymore. They don't have 2 or 3 years to figure it out and, hey, we'll burn off all of our cachet, but we'll be fine on the back end of this. We can restructure. No, they don't have that opportunity. I'm not saying next year is a must win, but the arrow better be pointing the hell up next year. They better be better than they were this year next year. So the idea of just not having a quarterback, whether that be next year or the year beyond, that's not amenable to the San Francisco 49ers and their leadership in place. So you pay the man his money. We're really parsing over what, $7-8 million in terms of annual value. That's one player. Oh no, you couldn't have signed Yetur Gross-Matos this year. Real difference maker for the team, right? I'm not terribly concerned about paying Brock his money. I'd be more concerned about not paying Brock his money. And while it'd be a fun little exercise, it could also mean the end of a pretty damn good era of 49ers football. And I don't think anyone's willing to take that risk if they really had to answer for it.
I also think that, you got to remember you're as a regime, you're always selling yourself to your boss, 100%. The owner. And, up to this point, they can still kind of go forward with we know what we're doing because, we missed on Trey Lance, but we hit on Brock Purdy.
Right.
So if you then go back and say, you know what, Purdy's not the guy, then now you didn't hit on Trey Lance or Brock Purdy. And then it starts to call your personnel track record into, the debate. And then that's not a debate that's not a road they want to go down because they've missed 20 times in the first 3 rounds, and it's documented. It's there for anybody to see. So I think they're absolutely going to stay with Purdy.
Right.
Now, he's regressed this year. His on-target percentage from 2023 is down 5% from last year. His catchable percentage is down 2.5% from last year. So how much of it's him, how much of it's his offensive line. His offensive line the Niners have allowed the 7th highest QB pressure rate at 37.8%, according to Next Gen Stats. They don't have a good offensive line.
No. Especially in the interior.
Right there. And,
it's not like the outside's awesome either.
He's getting pressure right in his face.
Yeah, that's right.
He's got
for
weapons,
a small quarterback.
He's got weapons that don't really separate. He's struggling with a wet football.
Yep.
He told us today something that I thought was kind of revealing. He says that he doesn't feel like he can throw as I think, let me see. I don't want to quote him, misquote it, but it was he's like, you can't throw the ball as violently I think that was the word that he used.
Rip it.
You can't throw the ball where was he?
Yeah, here we go. Here we go.
Basically, he said something.
I
Like
think that any makes it wet. The grip isn't good. For me, it's more about, he called it violent. I think for me, it's more about learning how to change the motion a little bit and throw it differently in the rain. You can't just get back there and be as violent as you normally are. The ball can come out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, that
makes sense.
I think he's got to figure it out as far as what's going to work for him. Either he's got to have a glove, he's got to have stronger hands, bigger hands. There's things you can do to strengthen your hand for sure, and there are things you can do. But I mean, he's or maybe it's time to practice a little bit with the wet ball.
Yeah.
But they need to start. He's basically just admitted there that he doesn't play the same way that he always plays in the rain. Now, I don't drive the way I always drive when I'm driving in the rain. So is that smart, or is that mean that you're kind of diminished? I'm not the same when I'm driving up 680 in the rain. I'm not going, 65, 75.
Yeah.
I'm going more like, 45, 50.
Right.
That's
smart. That's smart until the team needs you to rip it. And this year they need him to rip it. So now you have to balance out the risk and the reward. And this is not a player who has the kind of upside to where the risk is, the juice is necessarily worth the squeeze. So it is an issue. It's something that has to get figured out, or they need to put a roof on the damn stadium and you just eat it for a game or two every year on the road. I'm not going to say that he's been good. His deep ball against the Rams was egregious, but I was thinking it was the shoulder, and yet it's really kind of a one-off. It's really just that game against the Rams where the deep ball has been terrible. I went through all 40 of his deep balls. I think it was 38 this year, and he air yards over 20. And early in the season, man, it was a thing of beauty. This guy was pushing it all over the field, outside the numbers, down the field. It was on money, on time. He's a really good deep ball thrower. Now, is he going to be able to push it more than about 40, 45 yards? No. He never had to, and he probably will never have to. He can't Anthony Richardson it, but he can actually throw a 7-yard out, so there's your trade-off. And that was just not there against the Rams. It has been there in other games. It was there against the Bears. The Bears are just playing that soft cover 3, take anything you want, just let's get this over with. So I can't say that it's something since the shoulder injury. Now, if it happens in decent enough weather, now we got a little bit of a conversation, because it has gotten significantly worse since the shoulder injury, but it doesn't seem correlated to the shoulder injury. It seems more correlated to the rain. That's where I stand on it right now, but it's something we're keeping an eye on. He's going to be in Miami. It's going to be 75 degrees and sunny on Sunday. I want to see him rip a few down the field, right? That is the least adverse weather conditions you can have outside. I mean, everything's sticky in Miami because of the humidity. So this is a great opportunity for him to really show off the arm that we saw earlier this season, and that had gotten pared down a little bit in terms of just opportunities, and then had to get ramped up for the Rams game and just wasn't there. And those are limitations on his game. But I would like to maintain one more time, the man dying of thirst is not allowed to become a mineral water critic. Like, we can't just be like, oh, well, Brock Purdy isn't perfect, therefore they shouldn't pay him. Okay, again, the alternative is nothing. The alternative is drafting at 16, 17 and hoping there's a quarterback there. Maybe hitting on Brock Purdy again. Like, signing Sam Darnold, who you've already had in the building. And he's like, oh, man, Brock Purdy, what a professional. Like, I learned so much from him. Like, that was the best thing that ever happened to Sam Darnold was Brock Purdy. So why would you choose Sam Darnold over Brock Purdy? It's not as if they're, one's the elder statesman. Brock Purdy's 24 years old. Like, I get it. Sam Darnold's got this big cannon arm. He also has some pretty bad demons that talk to him during a game that says throw it to the other team. And they have not gone away since he's shown up in Minnesota. He's just had a little bit more to mitigate it this time around. So we will certainly nurse 6 months, 2 years out of this content, Larry. But at a certain point, man, like, okay, you don't want to do it? Great. What's the alternative? Sam Darnold at a similar rate?
So there you go. If it's Brock Purdy at 55 or Darnold at 40, you're taking Brock Purdy at 55.
Yes.
Okay. If not Purdy. So let's just say something happens. Purdy's agent just demands it. It's 65, not a nickel less, or screw off. And the Niners are just like, no. We're going to pay you a lot. We're going to pay you among the top players, but we're not going record-setting money by $5 million. We're just not. And he's just, you know what? I'm making my name as an agent behind Brock Purdy. I don't care if I make a deal here or not. This is what my demands, they will be met.
Yeah.
Okay. The Niners
Brock's
go,
going to play for $1.2 million next year.
No, but let's say the Niners say, you know what? It's not going to be Brock, because they're not going to do that. They're not going to bring back an unhappy quarterback and put him in the locker room and say, you're the guy, for a lot less than you deserve. And you're going to just take it because we said so. I mean, that's the same thing of like, hey, let Ayuk play on the 5th-year option. It was there, but it wasn't really there. And it's like a road that's an option that's not really an option.
Okay. Will someone want to pay 2 first-round picks for Brock Purdy? Because then you take it.
Well, I
don't think they will.
Forget the trade for a second.
Yeah.
If not Purdy at quarterback, then who? You said Purdy or nothing. But there's options, and
I just don't see.
You know what they are. So I mean, if Purdy says to the Niners, "Man, we don't know. Who knows? Maybe his agent's a maniac. Maybe his agent comes out and says, "I want $75 million a year." Who knows? I mean, we really don't know. Let's just say, for whatever reason, to me, though, people said it was this thing going to fall apart. I said it's going to fall apart if either side gets crazy strident. So if Brock shows up and says it's $65 million or forget it, then that's too strident and there may be a fracture. And if Parag starts the negotiations with, we're offering 30, take it or leave it, then that's going to create fracture. Other than that, I think they probably, it's not that complicated of a negotiation. The top of the scale is 60.
Yeah.
Mahomes makes 45. There's a lot of guys making 50.
Right.
The Niners, I'm sure, would love to pay him 40. But you know what? I think the compromise is 50. So I think it's like 3 years, 150 with, as you said, all kinds of outs and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
and you can massage it. You can massage it to make it look really good.
If it can't be done,
and
Brock is in the Niners and Brock, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy's not your starting quarterback next year.
Yeah.
Who is?
Russell Wilson.
You're going Russell Wilson. I would too. I would too. That
Here's
was a name that I threw out the other day. That's the guy that I would go for. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's a free agent.
Yeah.
He's got a stronger arm. He's won a Super Bowl. He's played well in Pittsburgh this year. I would give the next 2 or 3 years to Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he's a bridge quarterback, and that's where you'd be because you're looking for your next franchise guy. So you get a year or two to draft him, and you have your bridge quarterback. And you see, the issue with Darnold is he's 28 years old. So is he a bridge quarterback or is he your quarterback? And now you end up in the Geno Smith zone where you can't really move on because, again, the alternative is nothing. And you can't really stick with them because the ceiling is super limited, which we'll find out come playoff time when his 11-2 team probably loses in the first round. And yeah, so it's a lot better if you have the age certainty of a Russell Wilson to where, hey, you can only play for like 3 or 4 more years max, probably 2, because you're 37 years old already. We lock it in. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the Aaron Rodgers concept because I want some mobility behind whatever offensive line I'm putting out there. I can't imagine that we're going to go from 20 to 80 in an entire offseason, even if Trent Williams comes back 100% healthy. Like, you're going to have to rebuild your offensive line. I'd like to have some wiggle room there or some wiggle from my quarterback behind it, all things considered. And Russ still gives you just enough to be viable in that regard. I think he gives you as much as Darnold does in a way. So, that'd be where I'd go. And then I'm drafting a quarterback or two every draft, whether that be on day 2 or day 3 in perpetuity until somebody hits again. Because I think the Niners have to be out on first-round quarterbacks.
Here we go. You mentioned the draft. Kev put this together. Look at this little video here. And tell me what you think.
All right.
If it was me, my first choice, I'd bring Brock back. I would have Tanner Mordecai in that room. And then I want one veteran, but a better veteran than Josh Dobbs and a better veteran than Brandon Allen, but cheap. And then I want a rookie. The three guys I have my eye on in this draft are, Riley Leonard, Notre Dame, Haynes King, Georgia Tech, Tyler Van Dyke, who started at Miami, now is at Wisconsin. Those guys are all going to be day 3 quarterbacks, and I'd be interested in all three. We'll see. That would be my ideal quarterback room. If it was me, my first choice, I'd bring Brock back.
Yeah.
There you go. By the way, at the end of this video, I believe. Yeah, no.
The one that we just saw. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of this video. Look at this. The Niners went to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, right.
The way football works, this easily should have been a pick.
I love bringing that up. It's like everyone's like, what has Brock ever done to come from behind? It's like, do you not remember the second half of the NFC Championship game?
But, I mean, that's football right there. That's picked right there.
That's probably picked. Game over right there. Yeah.
Game over. Lions win. Oh, thanks for coming. Man, Brock overthrew him.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, but it bounces up in the air. Oh, now it's 1st and goal at the 4.
Yeah.
Do you see how?
But was it not pass interference?
Isn't that amazing how football is right there?
What's that flag, Lair? What's that flag coming in there? Is it not pass interference on 28?
Was it PI?
I think it was illegal contact or pass interference. Yeah.
But it was declined.
They declined the penalty. So.
But either way, I mean,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, you see how we're shades of gray, right? In the NFL, everything's very definitive in the aftermath,
right?
But there's lots of
and you won't believe how definitive it is in the conceptual realm. My goodness, yeah. I mean, it's already been played out in everybody's minds. They know how this one's going to go, and yet they still lose money when they go and bet at the books. It's incredible. They all know how it's exactly going to go, and yet they have no idea when it comes down to making money on it.
All right, it is time for Better. That's right. This live stream is sponsored by Better. We're really only here for Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Dieter and I have done it before. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krueger Show. And thanks to all of you guys for joining Better. All right, let's go take a look
Pearsall.
at Niners, Dolphins in South Florida. Ricky Pearsall, 19.5 receiving yards.
More.
13.5 longest catch.
I'm making you do it, Larry. You're going to have to root for Ricky Pearsall this weekend. More than 19.5. He was open on 18 of 23 of his routes, Larry.
God. Open. It's amazing. He's open. He just never gets the ball, but it's not his fault. Week after
Larry,
week after week.
It is.
He's
awesome. Being sarcastic.
He's an awesome player.
It is flipping amazing how open this guy is and how he never gets the ball. It is a jarring watch, my friend. Jarring.
Wait a second. I watched the All-22, and what I see.
How do you not see it?
He's open, but he does never open early in the progression. It's always late. He doesn't free himself open at the line of scrimmage.
And so they're throwing it to a guy who never gets himself open.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Brock missed him on the deep ball on the post.
Oh yeah,
the ball
not
hung.
The first time
was way inside. If he let him, it's an easy touchdown, and he burned that guy for fun. But I mean, there's other times where I just feel like his catch radius isn't great, so you got to put it right on him. And I'm not seeing more than a yard or two of separation at the catch point pretty consistently with him. The one that Brock threw badly was one of only 3 routes where I saw him truly get what I would consider 4 yards of separation, which is what you think. I think you need.
No, you're right. 4 is wide open, and he had 4, according to my charting. He had 4 wide open. But again, we're comparing this to Deebo Samuel, who doesn't get open, and Juwan Jennings, who doesn't get open, and they're doing all this extra stuff to try to get JJ a bit of a free release at the line. Just play Pearsall at the X and let him do what he does because he's good at it. And I'm buying all the stock. And now you're on the ticket with him. Where else we going?
Pearsall, good luck, Ricky. We're counting on you. Let's go to Deebo.
Yeah, Deebo.
Deebo's had a lot of time to think about that crappy game he had.
Longest catch to play here.
It won't be a run because his runs are not very. I would say
Unless he gets 20 carries, it's not going to be 19 and a half.
I would say he's maybe a tunnel screen on a fast surface. I'd say 45 receiving yards.
Okay, I'll ride with you. I'll ride
right,
with you
let's
on
go.
that one.
Let's go 45 receiving yards.
You
for
went
Deebs.
Pearsall. I'll go Deebo. Here we are.
And now
Disgusting
we got to go
brothers.
to a.
What do we got for
Awful.
Achan?
Let's go Achan.
Oh my!
Got a lot of options here. 49.5 rushing yards. 91.5 rushing receiving.
How about under on
receiving?
I got an idea. Under on the 36.5 receiving because he's going to get a lot of Lenore. They play him as the slot receiver. He's a really fun watch.
Okay.
But he's been teetering around that number.
See, I'm a big A&M fan. I've been watching this guy for a while. He's a blur. He's so fast.
He's impressive, but when you're playing as much zone as the Niners do, they're just hoping for man-to-man in the slot. Even on the opportunities you get that, you got Lenore on you. I'm not loving that for the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins win, but I'm not loving that for the Dolphins.
So we have Pearsall more than 19.5 receiving yards. We need 20 receiving yards from Pearsall.
Yeah.
We need 45 receiving yards from Deebo, and we need 36 or less receiving yards from Achan.
We're all pass all the time, baby. And by the way, Larry, I'll make a side bet with you. Pearsall gets it in the first quarter of this game.
Wow. It's a lot of Pearsall confidence.
Yes.
If we get to the post game and he's got nothing again, are we in the? At what point can we say, "Hey, we screwed up Pearsall pick"?
I'll say this: we can no longer cite the fact that he got shot. That's a lost cause these days. Then that falls on deaf ears. So we might be there. I might just wait it out till the end of the season. Just me. We're so close, but
all right.
I'm
good
in
luck
the bag.
To Pearsall. Good luck to Pearsall. He's a good kid.
Yes.
I don't know if he's a good player, but he's a good kid. So there you go.
When Larry is building the content around the shrine of Ricky Pearsall in the studio, remember.
Good luck to Mr. Pearsall, and good luck to the 49ers. Yes. And thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krueger Show. All right, let's get to our second topic, and we have a few, so we're going to roll through it pretty quick from here.
Sounds good.
Dre Greenlaw.
Unbelievable.
Was unbelievable.
It's his final linebacking performances I've seen in a half all year, and Fred Warner put on about 3 of the best I've seen ever in the first 3 games. I mean, it was a revelation. Yeah, you knew he was good, but you're like, oh, that's what this team's been missing. It's unreal.
This is a great little video here. We're going to share the screen on this one. Here's Dre at his locker.
Me?
He's being asked what he wants for Christmas, I think.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. KPIX.
I just couldn't tell you who did this video, Lair.
God, what are those things called? Watermarks?
Yeah, watermarks, chyrons.
That's not a watermark. That's a tsunami mark.
It's
supposed to be a little thing in the corner, KPIX. You're covering
the crop that out. Hey, I'm sure they got burned and some jackwad had to make himself known in the administrative side of things. No, put it right on his chest.
Look at all those beads right there. Fonga's getting ready to give those things out. All right, here we go.
Me?
Here we go.
Some money. Some money. Me? Some money. Some money.
That's
a good meme.
What a guy.
That is beautiful.
What a lunatic football player, man.
Hey,
and what a gem.
Guy. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the question.
Yeah.
There's 2 ways to do this. The guy has taken forever, 10 months without the sport that he loves.
Yeah.
And you and I are in there. And I've talked to him a ton. I don't know how much you've talked to him, but I've talked to him a ton.
He's dying.
This guy would play for free. He's had a rough upbringing. He's had a lot of adversity in life, and he's channeled it into an amazing life for himself and his boy and his family. And he's a true warrior. And I know how much he loves to play. And so that factors in here because This is what he loves, and he's been without it for 10 months. So I don't want to be so crazy about it that I'm like, he shouldn't play this week in Miami, okay? Because he barely got the chance to play a whole game. He only really played half a game. And then he could barely even make it to the podium. He was like limping almost. But now, somehow, miraculously, he's healthy again. I don't know how.
Yeah.
This guy rolled his ankle one time in a game, and I asked him about it at his locker afterwards. And he started jumping up and down on the cement floor with the carpet over the top in the locker room on his injured ankle, saying, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And I'm like, dude, if I rolled my ankle like that, I'd be in like.
And he tore his Achilles.
Yeah, I mean, and he tore his Achilles.
Yeah,
but I mean, the guy's he's a freak of nature.
I ever tell you my Aldon Smith story?
No.
So I'm covering the University of Missouri football team. Aldon Smith is on the squad, and he's having his breakout year. He breaks his leg at Iowa State. He plays the remainder of the season on a broken leg. Now, I had been talking to him because I had seen him in practice, perhaps too closely, as he was just whooping dudes. He was unbelievable. And I'm like, that's the best player on the team. Like, I'm going to buddy up with that guy. And I would get him every week, media availability, just talk to Aldon. He's the sweetest dude at the time. I imagine he still is. I haven't talked to him in years. But he at one point, very early, I think it was in preseason, made the claim that he could do a standing front flip, which or back flip, I'm sorry, which is way harder than the front flip. So you could do a standing back flip. And I'm like, that's ridiculous because you're 6'5" and 260 pounds. I'm going to need to see that. And then, of course, the SID is like, no, he won't do that for you. This won't do that. And he's like, I'll show you by the end of the year. So he breaks his leg at Iowa State. It's the middle of winter. And we're coming up on the final or the penultimate game of the season. And he's like, I owe you a backflip. And I'm like, yeah, well, considering that you're in a walking boot, I'm not too keen on seeing the backflip right now, Alden. Maybe we save that one for like NFL draft time or something when you're healthy. And he goes, no, I promised you a backflip. So he walks out to the front of the area at the Mizzou Athletic Complex on like ice. It's all ice. And he stands on this grassy area, which is all ice. And in a boot with a broken leg, does a standing backflip. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And anytime someone does something kind of stupid like Dre Greenlaw, it's the first thing I think about, the single greatest athletic thing I've ever seen. So anyone who's like, I didn't see this coming from Aldon Smith. And I'm like, frankly, I'm surprised he wasn't even better in the NFL. Like, not on longevity, immediately. And he was unbelievable immediately. He's the best athlete I've ever seen.
Well, and it's, I'm talking to Curtis Robinson today, and I said, were you surprised that Greenlaw came back and was so good in the first game? And he's like, no, honestly, I'm not. And it's like, I'm sitting there asking the question, and it's like, shame on me because I'm not either. I'm really not. I mean, he only knows one speed. The guy goes all out. It's all about heart and violence.
Did you see him headbutt Hufanga after that tackle on Williams?
Yeah, I mean, it's
unbelievable.
The guy's a monster. But here's the question. Yeah. He loves to play. So, I hate to just take it away from him. Right. But my thing would be play him in this game and then sit him out the last two games and sign him to a contract. Other people would say, you're going to let him walk in free agency. See, if you're going to let him walk in free agency, then I think it makes sense to just let him play it out because you kind of owe it to him to let him play and make his own way, and prove to the rest of the league what he's got. But I mean,
it's a little bit of both though, right? Like,
he's already proven. If you want to keep him, I mean, I would not play him more than this game. Play him in this Miami game, but then tell him he's done for the year and sign him to a deal.
Well, he's going to want to hit the market. He's going to want to hit the market at his peak value, and there's no way that he can totally recoup that unless he plays a lot. So I'm sure the Niners are more than willing to offer him a contract now, but they're going to get him at a discount. And I'm not sure Dre Greenlaw's keen to take the discount to stick around because, hey, if I play balls to the wall for the next 3 games on top of the performance I've already put on this year, another team is going to offer me some good money. And it's not just whatever the Niners want to give me. Like, it's not indentured servitude here. He does have the opportunity to hit the market.
Maybe he wants to be a Niner. I mean,
if he wants to be a Niner, then you figure out the deal today. Yeah, then you get to the table and you figure it out.
I said, what do you think of Greenlaw? And he's like, get him signed. I mean,
right.
So the guys in the room, I mean, and believe me, that's rare. You don't hear guys. I mean, it's right. Kittle said it last year about Ayuk. Sometimes you guys will say it, but it's for the most time they just stay out of it. but Lenore's like, Greenlaw, what do I think of him? I think they need to pay him right now. So it's like the guys in the room know.
I don't think
This
he was
guy's the
saying that
guy.
about Devondre Campbell,
No, and he
before.
wouldn't say it. He probably wouldn't say it about anybody, to be honest. But
You might say it
Greenlaw's
about Bosa,
so
but yeah.
yeah, Greenlaw's so different though. All right, topic 3.
Yeah.
Number one reason in your mind that the 49ers backslid in 2024.
Number one reason is injuries. I mean, and we can just start with the Christian McCaffrey in week 1. There's a million reasons. I'd be happy to go over all of them. I think that's what we've been doing for the last couple of months here. But the number one reason is they had incredible health luck last year with their stars and scrubs roster, and that was good enough to get them into the Super Bowl, into overtime of the Super Bowl. And that was a thin football team, but its top-end players were exceptional, and they performed all the way to the very end, save for maybe the last 2 quarters of the Super Bowl in overtime. So it got them pretty damn far. And this year, they had the exact opposite injury luck and the exact same structure of the roster. When you start the season with, Christian McCaffrey will be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And you don't practice at all for a month because Ayuk's out and Trent is out. And, Christian can't practice. And then who is it today that's just going to be able to skip training camp? Because that was just a fun little game of who got the day off that they played every day. They didn't practice at all. They had no training camp. They had a bunch of mini camps, but no actual training camp. And then, McCaffrey will be fine for the Jets. And then, actually, he won't be. And you know what? We're just going to keep him out until week 8. Because why not? We're so damn good. That sort of confidence and bravado and hubris on top of the injuries, man, it was too much to ask. I mean, right as Ayuk was coming into form, he goes down. Brock, just kind of getting beat up behind an offensive line. Trent going out late. Bosa with those injuries. The list goes on. Deebo just getting pneumonia. Just got pneumonia right before the Chiefs game. Still played somehow. Don't know what that's all about. Kittle missing both games against missing 2 games. Were they both against the Rams? No, one of them was against Seattle. And then the list goes on and on. When you have a top heavy roster and you never built depth, reasonable, effective depth, you see it on the offensive line, you see it on the defensive line, you see it everywhere on this team. And it's not enough to have a couple of guys who are high level to pull you through. You need all of them when you have this little depth. And that's the number one goal of this offseason. You got a lot of draft picks and a little bit of money, and you need to build some serious depth because you got the top end guys, but you don't have the dudes to back them up right now.
There's a lot of reasons for sure. There's not, it's not like, it's not like there's one reason, but, to me, there's a bunch. The red zone went from number 1 to the worst. The special teams were consistently awful.
They were bad last year, though.
They missed 20 picks in the first 3 rounds in this regime, and it's finally caught up to them. Yeah. You can't miss 20 picks. They missed on 20 picks in the first 3 rounds, and that's not
that might be conservative, legitimately.
Well, no, I mean, I went and counted it out. They've missed on exactly 20 picks. I mean, and that's if you consider Jake Moody a hit. You know what I mean? Some people might consider him a miss, but right. If you just count their misses and what they traded draft pick wise for Trey Lance, they missed 20 times in the first 3 rounds of the draft, and that's just too many. The DBs are young for sure. The D line from Ford, Bosa, Buckner, and Armstead to Bosa, Floyd, Collins, and Elliott is that's a major step.
I mean, you're playing Robert Beal. Right? Like when the Warriors started playing Pat Spencer, I'm like, they're not very good because there's no way that Pat, no offense to Pat Spencer, but if you're rolling Pat Spencer and Lindy Waters out in the same lineup, I don't have to take you seriously. If you're giving Robert Beal, a guy who you want to talk about a bust, I know he's a 5th round pick or whatever, but who has never done anything at the NFL level. And anything that he does well is a serious surprise. When you're running him out there for 20 snaps a game, I don't have to take you seriously. That's where we're at, and they've been doing that for a few weeks now here. So,
by the way, the Warriors got beat 144-93, and
it was a hell of a game.
Spencer didn't get a minute. Too bad because it would have been against his brother. His brother Cam Spencer plays for Memphis.
Oh yeah.
And Pat Spencer, of course, rides.
They were pulling people out of the crowd and saying, "How would you like to be a Warrior for the day?"
Wow. But I mean, there were other reasons. The Niners' weapons. I mean, Deebo, Ayuk, CMC, 40 touchdowns last year, 2 this year.
Oh,
That's a major one. That is
That's
a
a good
major one. The linebackers backslid from Greenlaw, Warner, Aziz 2 years ago to Campbell and Flanagan Fouls. And
hate to say I told you so on.
Really
Campbell.
bad. Really, really bad.
I was getting reamed when I said that signing Campbell was a mistake. I have never been more vindicated.
Hated that signing. 12 extra games in the playoffs over 5 years.
Yeah.
12 playoff games.
Oh, they're on like the 75th game over the last 3-4 years. Yeah.
I mean, when you look at 12 playoff games in a 5-year run, 12 playoff games is almost like playing a full regular season. So in 5 years, the Niners have played six seasons. So that's a big part of it.
Right.
But to me, the number one issue, and no one's going to like this one, but I heard Greg Papa talking about it today, and I started reading more about it, and I'd read the article earlier in the year. But it's this rest situation that the NFL has absolutely fucked up, and it's just it's really,
massive
really
disadvantage.
bad.
Yeah,
the 49ers were minus 22 in rest differential, worst in the NFL in over 20 years.
That's right.
Papa mentioned it this morning. They played 6 teams off a bye or a mini bye.
Yeah,
and more than anything, and Greg said it. And Tim agreed with him today. The Niners need some rest as an organization.
Yeah.
They need a mental rest, physical rest, emotional rest. They badly need a rest. So let's get this straight. The 49ers were coming off of a Super Bowl appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So they played the longest season last year. They had the shortest rest.
Mm-hmm.
They followed that up this season where the schedule makers gave them a first place schedule.
Yeah.
And they had 7 games.
Oh, and just the shaft
against teams off a bye or a mini bye. Okay.
I mean,
even this is what happened in those games. Let me just tell you right now.
Great.
Week 2, Minnesota, they lost. Week 7, Kansas City, they lost. Week 8 against Dallas, they won that game because Dallas is horrible.
That's right.
Week 11, they had the biggest differential in rest on the season. It was 7 games or 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost to Seattle. That happened to be the game that they had to win. They really had to win that game. And that wound up being kind of like Cincinnati last year was their biggest rest differential negative, and they got their doors blown off. They had absolutely nothing. Anybody who watched that Seattle game knows that the 49er defense absolutely had no juice at the end of that game. They were just running around. They were totally gassed, and they lost the game.
Yeah.
Buffalo, week 13, they're short rest. They lost the game. Bears in week 14, they won. It was a mini bye. Bears had played on Thanksgiving, and the Niners have won more. Week 18 against Arizona, the Niners will have played Monday night in week 17 against the Lions, and they'll take on Arizona on regular rest. So that's 7 teams off a bye, and the Niners are in the 6 so far, went 2-4 in those games, and the biggest rest differential negative was Seattle, and that's the game that absolutely crush their season. So, and then beyond that, Kev and I looked up the numbers. Okay, so this is even more interesting on that rest front.
Yeah.
Rest is obviously important in the NFL. Here are the top 5 most rested teams in pro football this year.
I bet they all made the playoffs.
Baltimore, 9-5 going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
New England has the least talent of any roster in football, so you could give them half
exceptions to prove the rule.
Yeah, they're the exception. Minnesota, they're 12-2.
Yeah.
Philly, they're 12-2.
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay, they're 10-4. Those are the teams that have the most rest thus far in the NFL. The least rested teams in the NFL, Niners are the least rested. 21 fewer days of rest than their opponent.
They'll get to
the Niners have had 8 games this year with a net rest disadvantage and only 2 games with a net rest advantage. They went
That would
2-0 in those 2 games with a net rest advantage.
That
But
would
here are
be
the here are the
Seattle. What were those 2 games? It was Tampa after the bye.
Tampa and the first Seattle, maybe?
The first Seattle, the Thursday night football game, I think, is what it was.
I think that was it. It was definitely Tampa was one of them. Okay, so now here are the least penalized teams, or the least rested teams, I should say, in the NFL. Niners have the least rest, minus 21 rest days. Then Denver, then Indy, then Seattle, then the Chargers. All kind of just mediocre teams are not that great. And if you say, who's the best team on that list, it's probably the Chargers.
Yeah.
And they have been fading really bad in this last month. And they
Hell of
got
a game
beat
tonight,
last
though.
week. They won tonight. They won tonight against Denver.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's a nice strong finish. They anti-Chargers.
The Chargers, I believe, had lost 3 out of 4, something like that.
Yeah, and they couldn't run the ball anymore. This is
they
a team
don't have J.K.
predicated
Dobbins.
Right. Team predicated on physicality could stop running the football. Like it was one of these things. Like, it's J.K. Dobbins, like Barry Sanders. Like, what are we doing here? Like, why is Gus Edwards incapable of running the ball?
Totally. And the least rested teams are kind of limping towards the finish line. There's nobody who's like really rolling who's among the least rested. And then of the most rested, take New England out because they're just the worst roster in all of the NFL. Yeah. The other 4 teams not just are going to the playoffs, they almost look like they're building momentum.
Right.
And those teams have had the most rest of any teams in the NFL. Then, Kevin, I looked this up. Of the teams that have a positive, they're 8
rest
games positive, higher net, 8 games or more net rest edge advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Those teams are 46-24 combined. They have a 657 win percentage. It's the equivalent of like an 11 win season.
Wow.
Okay. The teams that have a negative 8-point rest advantage differential, or rest differential, 48-50, 490 win percentage, sub 500. So I mean, it just kind of goes to show that, what has happened here. So like, okay, so what's going on here? If you read the story from Warren Sharp, it's that the NFL's TV partners are paying so much money for the rights that they now have a big seat at the table, and they're dictating to the NFL, screw you and your fairness. You get me the best matchups no matter what. And the NFL in the past used to say, well, you know what? We will try to give you the best matchups, but we also have to remember about fairness and scheduling.
They'd want it to be close to even, right? Yeah.
Right. They care about even in other facets of the game. I mean, they won't give the Browns 1 extra minute of practice time than they give the Vikings, than they give the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Texans. That's just the way the league is. But in this one area, the 49ers, who have made the league tons of money, and they're in primetime a lot. Why? Because they're an iconic franchise, the teams that fans want to watch, and the networks demand the 49ers. Yeah. The NFL is now kowtowing, and the numbers show that this rest equation has actually been exacerbated in the last 2 or 3 seasons as the NFL's newest TV contracts have come about. They have prioritized the matchups over the fairness in the schedule. And it's gotten to a point now that there's no doubt in my mind that the Niners played the longest, had the shortest off season. So they had that huge rest disadvantage coming in. Then they played a first place schedule, as that's the norm. But then they also got this scheduling of where they were forced into all these primetime games, and they have the biggest rest disadvantage in the game. And you combined a shortest off season with the biggest rest disadvantage in the game and a roster that's getting older, a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. I mean, Dieter, we haven't even talked about Mooney Ward's tragedy, Trent Williams' tragedy, Ricky Pearsall's tragedy, and all those things. Those things are just like also happen.
Just add it to the pile.
Yeah, that just more reasons why it wasn't their year. But this rest thing has to be addressed. It's not okay.
It has to be addressed. Larry, I wrote this column before the season started.
Yeah, I mean, this has to be addressed in the future. It's not okay that this keeps going in the wrong direction. Because
you'll love it next year if they're plus 21.
The last stat I'll throw you. The Niners and Ravens could potentially have met in the Super Bowl.
Sure.
The Ravens road to the Super Bowl. They were going to be plus 37 extra rest days over a sport that's only 4 months long. So the road to the Super Bowl for the Ravens compared to the Niners they're competing for the same Lombardi trophy. And
that's
yet
insane.
Baltimore is plus 37 in net rest days compared to their opponents, compared to what the 49ers played.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not just an unfair advantage. That is a defining, major, almost borderline impossible to overcome situation. Now, the 49ers, I said, I already put it in there. They blew 20 picks in the first 3 rounds. So their depth would have, if they had hit on those picks, they wouldn't be in this position. But those missed picks combined with the regression of their 3 top weapons and the injuries, the tragedies, but this massive rest disparity, too much to overcome. Give me your thoughts.
No, I mean, it's 100%. We could have seen this coming from a mile away. You add in everything else, right? It doesn't, when you're already behind the 8 ball to start a season with injuries and training camp going to hell and drama, unnecessary drama on both sides. Like Ayuk isn't innocent in this process either. Trent isn't innocent in this process either, though he was admittedly a lot more professional about it. But when you have all that stuff going on and then this schedule, so you got an uphill climb the entire year. You knew it was done the second that they dicked around in the first month of the year. You just knew that it wasn't heading in the right direction. They needed to come out of September with 3 wins. They needed to get to the bye with 6 in their bag, because you looked at the second half of this schedule, and obviously things change all the time in the NFL, but you looked at the second half of the schedule: Tampa Bay, Seattle, Green Bay, Buffalo, Chicago, the Rams, Miami, Detroit, Arizona, and you're like, you're going 500 if you're a good team, right? Because you're not as good as you were last year. Like you have to have your hay in the barn by the bye week, and they went in at 4-4, and some of the wins were uninspiring, right? They had 1 good quarter against Dallas, and they had some egregious losses. So you knew it was a real issue. It'll be interesting to see how it swings next year with the rest. They're going to get what is in all likelihood a 4th place schedule. I don't read too much into that. Like, I'm not terribly concerned about stuff like that. I guess it will help, unquestionably help. But this team needs to get deeper. This team, they need a rest. I agree with that sentiment. I'll say this: I hope they're enjoying the rest right now. I hope that they're taking advantage and taking a couple days off during the week right now, because while the football players themselves will have plenty of time to rest in this offseason, and some of them have already gotten a head start, this front office and Kyle Shanahan are about to have one of the most pressure-filled, chaotic off seasons in recent 49ers memory, because they're going to have a lot of time to figure out how to get this thing loaded up again, because there's no tearing down, right? You are reshuffling. You are doing all of this on the fly, but you can't just shut the machine down and put it in for service. This train still has to roll, and you got to figure out ways to fix the broken parts on the fly. That is a monumental task. So the idea that, John Lynch is going to be able to kick his feet up, or Kyle's going to get to go to Cabo for a month, that feels a bit of a stretch to me. I hope the players get all the time they need. They're going to get more of it than they're used to. But this front office, you can already tell they're getting going. I appreciate that, right? With restructuring some deals already, getting Lenore under contract. Like, the skids need to be greased so that when business truly opens and the offseason really starts, not only are they figuring out who's out and who's in and have all of their ducks in a row there. They need to get some coaches on this staff. They've had some significant brain drain over the last 5 years. And I bring this up a lot, but I think it's important to highlight. They haven't had much opportunity to go and get replacements, right? When you're constantly coaching until the NFC Championship game, well, a lot of these guys have deals in place on their staff. They already have deals in place weeks before the end of the 49ers season. So you can't go and get an equivalent sort of player or coach. You can't go get them because the market's already been sorted out. I mean, I think they need to make a pretty clear move at defensive coordinator. Those names are well known, but I'd go get Michael Clay, the special teams coordinator from the Eagles. I'd go big game hunting, and this is an opportunity for Jed to really get out the checkbook and maybe play a little bit of college booster here, right? Like sometimes money talks, and you got an opportunity to go and really flash some cash to get some big time coaches this offseason. The Eagles just did it by going out and getting Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. I think the same thing needs to be applied. You're lucky you don't need an offensive coordinator, but like you need to go and you need to flash some serious cash on both of those jobs. And there's no cap on it. So whatever Jed's willing to spend, he needs to spend. What am I looking at here? All right.
Can you see that?
I see him.
Can you read that?
Marty Biaggi.
That's the Notre Dame special teams coach. Go watch
He's the
Notre
guy?
Dame play special teams.
Okay,
I
I
mean,
will.
They're awesome.
I have an opportunity on Friday.
Yeah, this guy's got to be a great special teams coach. I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about this guy, but their special teams are amazing. Okay, here's a trivia question. Can you name I saw odds today on the Saints, Cowboys, Bears, and Jets head coaching jobs. Can you name the 49er coach that is listed as a candidate for one of those 4 jobs?
I'd imagine that Brandon Staley is probably listed for some ungodly reason for the Saints job.
Good guess.
Oh, yeah?
But no.
Damn,
no,
I felt good
wasn't
about that for a
wasn't
second.
it.
What was
That
it?
wasn't it. Nick Sorensen is 50-1 odds to land the Jets job. Nick Sorensen.
Who's putting that down?
I don't
Who's making that market?
Jimmy Shapiro.
I suppose that's
Jimmy Shapiro.
hey,
You're
the
favorite.
last 49ers defensive coordinator you fired prematurely and was clearly not the problem. So I guess just go back to that well.
Saints favorite to get the Saints job, Joe Brady, 3-1.
Okay.
Saints favorite to get the Cowboys job, Mike Vrabel, 5-2.
That's interesting that the Cowboys job is even on the board. Who's the Bears' favorite?
By the way, the top 3 for each: Saints, Joe Brady, Ben Johnson, Darren Rizzi, their interim head coach.
The Rizzler.
Cowboys, Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Deion Sanders.
Yeah. That's
How
like
incredible would that be?
That's kind
Jets,
of the thing.
Jets, Mike Vrabel, 1-2, which is a really
Wow.
overwhelming
Wow.
odds. Aaron Glenn, 4-1, which would be who they should hire, and Ben Johnson, 7-1. The Bears' favorite, Cliff Kingsbury,
Oh no.
7-2 favorite. Ben Johnson, 4-1. Mike Vrabel, 5-1.
My favorite thing about Cliff Kingsbury is that he has no ability to adjust his game plans as the season progresses. He's just like, nah, I'm going to do what I do, and they'll get the tape on me, and then we're just going to keep doing what we do. This has happened everywhere. The man is in. You want to talk? I talk all the time about Kyle being an ideologue. There is no bigger ideologue than Cliff Kingsbury. He's like, no, my stuff is good. I don't need to change anything. And
Can I
then
tell
every
you who
year
it's
they
going to
fade.
be?
Who's it going to be?
Can I tell you who I think it's going to be?
In Chicago?
Yeah, in Chicago. I think it's going to be Marcus Freeman.
Well, he just signed an extension with Notre Dame.
I know, but I think Ryan Poles is going to want to come for Marcus Freeman. It'd be very popular. You think did he just sign like this year, like this month or something?
Yeah, like last week.
Oh, okay. So it won't be Marcus.
So they
Freeman.
already came knocking.
So they came knocking. Maybe they came knocking, and that's why he got that extension.
I'm pretty sure
but
that's exactly how it happened.
I do like Marcus Freeman. Okay, here
I
we
do.
go.
I get that too. I got one for you for Bears
Yeah.
head coach. You ready?
Yeah.
Ryan Day.
Needs to get up out of Columbus.
He doesn't want to. Here's a lifeline. We're going to be able to punch above our weight as the Bears, one of the most inept organizations in the NFL. Ryan Day has been a name that has been bandied about as a very viable NFL head coach. He already runs a CEO operation. Wouldn't shock me in the least bit.
How about Pat Fitzgerald?
Pat Fitzgerald, the man who was fired from Northwestern for hazing his players?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
Well, I mean, he was
I believe he's currently
Northwestern.
I believe he's full-time embroiled in litigation, so that might be difficult to pull off for him.
He'd be nice. He's a regional favorite. All right.
Yeah.
What do you want to see from the Niners in the final 3 games?
Larry,
Either what do you want to see from players? What players do you want to see? Just give me something you want to see from the Niners in the final 3 games. Maybe it's attitude. Maybe it's physicality. I don't know. I don't know what it is. What do you want to see from the Niners in the final 3 games?
3 things. Column up on the Mercury News. Number 1, I want to see Pearsall being the focal point of the passing offense. He's open. Throw him the damn football. 2, I want to see Isaac Guerendo, which I'm going to have to wait another week, get the full CMC treatment. The man can catch the football. Why is he not getting flexed out wide far more consistently? I only had 2 times where he got bumped out or flexed out. Use him. If teams are going to play man-to-man, use him as the counter. That's what you did with CMC. It was fantastic. That's what I want to see. Trust Isaac Guerendo to be the CMC replacement. We know he's not the same player, but trust him because he has the closest thing to that skill set as anybody on your team. And the third thing, Larry, and this is my favorite one, I want to see the 49ers fake one flippin' punt. Just one. Just fake a punt. Live a little. Throw some caution to the wind. Do something that is inherently stupid. I want to see Kyle Shanahan add a level of whimsy to the game of football because this team isn't any fun. This team isn't aggressive. This team isn't doing anything that instills any trust in the players, that doesn't get the fans excited. Like, there's nothing going on. Everything is by the book. Whatever Kyle has scripted in his head, that's how it's got to go. He has never once faked a punt as the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. They have run a fake punt once. That was Mitch Wishnowsky operating on his own. It also got flagged back because Ronnie Bell held. And then one time Kyle claims he has called the fake punt, but they checked out of it, and I call bullshit on that. I want to see the 49ers do something kind of dumb because they got nothing to lose. Fake a punt. Let me know you're still living.
Okay. I like it. I want to see this team play at the standard that they've always played at under Shanahan, which is fast and physical. Yeah. I don't care who's in there. I want to see them playing fast and physical. I don't want to see uncharacteristic 49er play. You know, I don't want to see any kind of loafing, any kind of taking plays off. I don't want to see any kind of, giving ground on defense. I want to see guys flying around, hair on fire, playing like their lives and jobs are on the line. That's number 1. That's just like what I want to see generally from the room. If I was addressing the room, that's what I would say. Right. Fly around. Let's play for each other. Let's have fun.
And we lose by 40. Who gives a damn?
Let's do play something fast. Let's let it all hang out. Offensively, I want to see the ball go to Jacob Cowing and Ricky Pearsall. We have to find out this year what they may or may not be able to contribute next year. It's vitally important that those two guys see the ball a ton in these last 3 games. That's number 1. 2, I got to see Drake Nugent starting at center.
Oh, Larry, you're preaching to the choir, baby. I got to see the Nuge. I'm willing to play him at guard just to find out.
Yeah, I got to see Nugent at center. He played center. Let's see him at center. Yeah. I want to see that. I want to see, and I'm serious about this, I want to see Tanner Mordecai start Week 18 against Arizona.
Okay.
I want to find out what I have in Tanner Mordecai. I mean, think about it this way. You know the way the NFL is.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost to the fans. The fans are only like one step different than the teams themselves.
Right.
The teams like try to make it seem like, oh yeah, we know who's good, we know who's bad. They don't know shit.
No,
They constantly
clearly
are
don't.
taking Brock Purdy. Everybody passed on Brock Purdy.
Right.
The Niners didn't know what they had in Brock Purdy, and nobody knew that Brock Purdy was any good. These people don't know. They're guessing like everybody else.
Yep.
So they don't know if Tanner Mordecai is good or not. And it's like the fans don't know if Tanner Mordecai is good, but other teams don't know if Tanner Mordecai is good. So put Tanner Mordecai out there and throw the ball all over the place and have him run and see if he can put together a 300-yard passing day and 75 yards running. And he's got 4.4 speed. Just tell him, go out there and play your ass off. And guess what? If a guy like that played even one game, he would have value as an asset going forward just because of that one game. And also, you need to find out if Tanner Mordecai is good enough. I think he's better than these guys that you have behind Brock now.
Well,
he just hasn't gotten the opportunity. So let's see it. That's one.
I'm with you. I think that's a good idea.
I want to see Izzy Abanaconda. Izzy Abanaconda's got 4.3 speed. He's very, very athletic.
Why'd the Jets cut him?
He was cut by the Jets, but the Jets are fucking terrible. And
they got pretty good running backs. They found some guy on the street who turned out to be better than what they had. I mean,
I'm just telling you. I put my name to it. This guy, Izzy Abanaconda, can play. I
think you're going to get a good opportunity because I think he's going to be on the roster. Well, I don't know. They might go with Vaughn, but I think he's going to play on Sunday.
Oh, there's no doubt he's going to play because Patrick Taylor's not an every down back. I mean, he just can't take that many carries. So it's going to be Izzy and Keyshawn Vaughn and Patrick Taylor. But I got to see Izzy. Got to see Izzy. I got to sit both Warner and Greenlaw. They've done enough, and I need to play.
Well,
I need to play Winters and Graham.
One half of football's enough from Greenlaw.
Yeah, I'm okay. Like this game right here, I'm giving him this game. Okay. But after this game, I'm signing him and I'm taking him off the field, and I'm sitting Warner and I'm going with Winters and Graham, and then that's really it.
Yeah,
everybody else is kind of playing already and doing their thing. But yeah, I mean, Graham I want to see, Nugent I want to see. Mordecai I want to see.
I mean, this is the beauty of this season, Larry. I mean, there's not that many young guys left to see.
Yeah, that's it. That's all there is right there.
Get Cowing in there. We've already seen Garendo, probably not enough, but here we are. We can only ask for so much. Sure, we want to see Izzy because again, great, more Patrick Taylor, fantastic. I'd like to, if we're going to get into the nuance, I'd like to see a lot of 11 personnel. I don't think I need to see Kyle Juszczyk on the field again. I think I'm good without a fullback for a while. Get wide and let it rip, right? Like what none of this tactical nonsense that Kyle wants to run.
I found his replacement. There's a fullback replacement in this draft.
Who do you got?
His name is JJ Pegues.
I know JJ, yeah.
And he plays defensive tackle.
You're talking about the Ole Miss guy?
For Ole Miss. Defensive tackle for Ole Miss. They use him on the goal line and in short yardage, and the guy has not been denied all year. It's like he's like 10 for 10 for either first downs or touchdowns. He's 315 pounds, but he's a crazy athletic 315. And he's got it's crazy to say this, but he's got he's at full speed, full tilt in 2 steps.
Yeah.
And you just don't see that from 300-pound guys. So this guy's short yardage ability is awesome. I mean, this is the guy you want. He's way bigger than Juice.
That's not how Kyle uses the fullback. He uses the fullback like the bishop on a chessboard, and it's all this conceptual
He uses him as
stuff.
a blocker. He uses him as a blocker, direct snaps. He doesn't do a lot of lead blocking, but you know what? This guy, they're going to replace Juszczyk eventually, and this year anyway, because
I'm not sure
the
they
Purdy
will.
contract.
I was looking at the money. It's almost as much to get rid of him as it is to keep him. So I think he might stick around for another year.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
You know what? Here's the thing, and I heard Mayoko say this today, and I hope he's wrong. Okay. He said that he thinks that the Niners are going to run it back with everybody almost.
Well, that's the stupidest guy. I mean, no offense to Matt. If they do that, that's the dumbest goddamn plan.
He's talking about Sorensen back. Schneider back.
Well,
You know,
it was a really
back.
fun run. It was fantastic to enjoy the
Deebo
peak of Niners
back.
football. That's the stupidest fucking plan I've ever heard.
And that's what he said.
The-
So he
they
thinks
were just snake bitten this year? Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, everybody they're going to run it back.
No, that's that. You know what? I try not to pull this card often, but it seems to be coming up more and more. That is legitimately insulting to our intelligence.
Yeah, don't
That's like
try
when
that.
Farhan's out here saying like, "Oh, well, we have the best rotation," but that's insulting to our intelligence. It's one thing to suck at your job; it's another thing to try to sell us shit and tell me that it's a flippin' fillet. Like no.
Give me all right. Here we go. Last couple questions here.
Yeah.
Number one need of the offseason for the Niners is what? I mean, seriously, defensive end, defensive tackle, offensive tackle,
Impact
receiver,
defensive lineman,
running back,
it's a
tight end, free safety.
Impact defensive lineman. I'll take a tackle preferably, but I'll go with an end. I think that they're also in a great position for that because this defensive and offensive line draft in the first 2 rounds looks loaded, which you can't often say. Maybe defensive line, you can say it a lot. Even last year seemed down. But the first round in this year's draft on defensive line, I mean, there might be 20 guys. It's a loaded draft at that position. Not a good quarterback draft, not a good receiver draft after you get out of the top 5 or so. This is all pretty preliminary looks.
I would say
D-line.
this based on what I've seen. Now the Niners, who knows where they're going to pick, but they're going to pick somewhere between 10 and 15, let's say.
Yeah.
I know this is going to sound really like a cop out.
No, do it.
They need
I'll yell at you.
a great player. It doesn't really matter. In fact, I don't want them to say we need a tackle and we need a defensive end and we need a center and we need a running back and we need a no. You need to do what the Lions do. The Lions keep drafting great players. You just keep drafting great players and don't worry about exactly what spot they play. And then you'll take it from there because you can't dictate the way things are going to roll. So I would say get a great player. Yeah. I don't care if you get up in the 12th pick and you're staring at Ashton Gianti. I don't care. He's a great player. I want a great player. I need if you go for a running back, that's fine. Go for Ashton Gianti. Yeah. You know, if you're going to go for a defensive tackle, which I kind of agree with you. I would say defensive tackle, Walter Nolan.
I mean, in an ideal world, you're getting an explosive 3 technique.
Mason Graham, something like that would be amazing. Kenneth Grant.
I'm a big fan of Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss.
Yeah, Walter Nolan is a tremendous player. So that to me, and also in the wide 9, you got to have the big time war daddies inside. You got to have the D tackle.
Yeah.
So I like Walter Nolan. I'd probably
Overton.
If I could pick my poison in this thing, I'd want the Niners to get like the 12th pick, and I'd like to see Walter Nolan go around 28. And I'd like to see the Niners trade back to about 20.
Yep.
Get some other picks and take him 8 picks before he's going to go. But I also love Ashton Gianti, and I've got no problem taking a running back. All right.
I wouldn't be opposed to, listen, I think you got to get rid of Deebo this offseason. Maybe that's not their plan, but, I'm not totally sold on Luther Burden. I watched every one of his college games, but, like, if you're going to need a Deebo replacement, he's pretty damn close. Pretty fast. Wouldn't be opposed to it. Just saying.
Yeah. Burden's big time for sure. MF49 says Boris rumored to be hiding out with Corbin Burnes in a cave in the Rocky Mountains. Thumbs up or thumbs down on Corbin Burnes? His numbers, his strikeout totals dipped last year.
He's a Cy Young winning. He's a Cy Young winning pitcher. I don't believe in signing pitchers in free agency on principle. Much like I always say no on a proposition on the ballot. If I have any questions about it whatsoever, I just say no. I just vote no on the proposition. I vote no to signing starting pitchers from the free agent market. Make your own. At least then that's your injuries. It's your fault that they got injured. Signing somebody else's. So it's great. And they're probably going to do it. So if they can win games, I love everything.
Yeah. No, I would say no. You're not a Corbin Burnes away from beating the Dodgers. Go build yourself a team. When you've built yourself a killer team and you're not leaning on donkeys like Yaz, then you can go get your starting pitcher. Right now, it's like, why have a great starting pitcher on a team that's going to finish universally fourth?
Because they're in the memory-making business, and some random kid on a Tuesday night is going to watch Corbin Burnes throw a 3-pitch, 1-run game and lose, and that memory is going to be much like I watched Freddie Garcia pitch a 1-hitter that was a solo home run against the Montreal Expos, and the White Sox lost 1-0. That's a memory, and that's what they're in the business of making, Larry.
No kid, for the most part, nobody walks around celebrating pitching. Kids like position players. Your team is your team that you put out there 1 through 8.
If you're wondering,
come on.
It's 9 now. But also, if you're wondering how big of a dork I am, big celebrator of pitchers back in the day.
But I mean, come on, man. I mean, you want to wear a Lincecum jersey or a Buster jersey? Come on, everybody's going to want to wear a Buster jersey, I think. Yeah. Claudaddy Arcade says, LK's preview video, 41 games rest disadvantage. Make it make sense. Why doesn't the Union interject? Love Dietz and Krueger Thursdays. Well, the Union, I mean, we're at that point. This part of the reason that nobody's interjected is because this is all new. This is a relatively new development. The NFL used to prioritize the schedule and fairness over the dollars. But as these dollars have gotten bigger, the people paying the dollars have more of a seat at the table and more control. And so the TV networks have been able to dictate to the NFL, screw you and your fairness. We want Niners on prime time in a big time matchup that are going to draw eyeballs, and screw you and your rest. But guess what? You do that enough, and then all of a sudden you don't even have the Niners in the postseason. And that's what happened this year.
I'll note that it's not, I think that this is going to, I know that you're a tastemaker in the society, right? Like when you say something, Larry, it goes, and the next day everyone's talking about what Larry Krueger talked about the night before. I know where this goes. In a couple of days, we're going to be seeing like the Niners never stood a chance. The rest disparity, they never stood a chance. Shove that shit up your ass right now. Shove it up your ass.
I never said that.
No. You never said that, and I never said that, and I hope no one watching thinks that that's the case. This was one of many pillars of crap that happened this year.
It was a contributing factor. It wasn't
no doubt
about
factor.
It.
Correct.
I mean,
watch people try to turn it into the factor.
Hey,
because people love a conspiracy theory. It's so much easier to just say the NFL had it out for us than admit that your team was built to fail.
No, but the biggest factor was the DMC or the CMC Deebo Ayuk fade.
Just
that was the biggest factor. That once you go from 40 to 2, it
was like the later Avengers movies. They just weren't very good. I didn't really see the early ones, so that's not really a good analogy.
It's like Beverly Hills Cop 3. You know what I mean?
Hey.
James Mockestad. That was filmed at Great America, by the way. James Mockestad, which is right next door to Levi Stadium.
For now.
That's when Eddie Murphy jumped the shark. Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Apparently they jump an actual shark in Gladiator 2, and it's like, really? You're gonna
Oh, really?
Just put it right on the nose.
I haven't seen Gladiator 2. Is it
not
worth watching?
I haven't watched it either.
Gladiator.
I heard that they jumped an actual shark.
I loved Gladiator 1.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Dude, the opening scene of Gladiator is pretty freaking amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That's I watched just that.
And YouTube allows you. But, like, just because you can make a movie 20-something years later doesn't mean you should. Shout out Beverly Hills Cop, which apparently they made another one. It was called like Axel or Foley or something.
You know what? I saw it on Netflix a few weeks ago, and I watched it for like a half hour, and I thought, this is just horrible.
Yeah.
Just absolutely horrible. But you know what?
People have bad taste, Lair.
I know. You know what? Nobody's got any originality anymore. Everybody's remaking everything.
Yeah.
And
that's why they keep ripping off.
And everything else.
Yeah.
James Mockestad. Again, Sam has a defense line and weapons. Yeah, defense, I should say. Mufasa says, I miss Jim Harbaugh.
Well, I think we all
more and more like his dad.
It's true.
Mitchell and Ness, when will Larry gush over Purdy giving his offensive line new Toyotas? This was what we teased off the start of the show. Dieter, go with your take. This is now Brock, as generous as he is really outdoing Mahomes. Mahomes last year gave all of his Chiefs offensive linemen golf carts. And I thought that was pretty freaking generous.
How much do you think a golf cart costs, Larry?
That's a good question.
I'd say about what, $15,000 a golf cart? Is that a fair? Those are tricked out golf carts.
I think they were that much. Were they
Okay,
that much?
10?
I don't know. I thought they were
Like
probably more.
like a shitty golf cart's like $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be like 75. I thought they maybe were 7,500 each.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that we have that on the record.
So was it just for the O-line?
It was just for the O-line, to my understanding.
So Brock today bought his O-lineman or connected his O-lineman with he's a spokesman for Toyota. He gave them Toyotas. Were they Camrys?
No.
Like to say that
they were $85,000 Sequoias and SUVs.
Sequoias. He gave these guys Sequoias.
Brock Purdy. I mean this literally.
How much is the cars that he gave?
$85,000 a car.
Oh my God! And
I looked this up.
He's making $1 million, but he's not making.
Larry, he just gave out $900,000 in cars. He makes $1 million a year from the Ford.
Toyota maybe made it part of his deal.
Perhaps.
What do you think? What do you think he makes for Toyota? Is he their national spokesman or is he like a local regional spokesman?
I'm pretty sure it's a regional thing, right? Because he has the Steve Young commercial and stuff like.
So it's like they're not watching that in Cincinnati or anything.
I don't think so.
It's just us,
right?
Okay, so
there's not a lot of national car spokespeople because most car commercials are put on by your NorCal Honda dealers, or it's like the California
co-op dollars.
Correct, exactly. So it's the cartel of dealers. And they have good money. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Larry, Sports Talk Radio subsisted on these people for decades. So
Mitchell and Ness want to hear me gush. Brock is the greatest human being in the world for giving his linemen cars.
It's a big deal. That's an incredibly thoughtful gift.
Very,
Brock
very
clearly
generous.
He clearly didn't think it through enough. I hope he did.
So now
I hope he did.
Think you don't like it. You immediately upon hearing this news, you're like, he burdened his offensive linemen with a tax debt that will bury them.
I never said it would bury them. It's now what I said is Merry Christmas. Here's a headache. That's what that is. None of those guys.
It's like winning season tickets to the Giants, but no parking and no food and no transportation. And you realize that now you're going to have to spend like $12,000 on Giants baseball that you never would have spent before.
So the reason that I mentioned the Pat Mahomes golf carts is that you get an $18,000 gift exemption every year. So you can give $18,000 to anybody you want tax-free. Okay?
Maybe I'll take advantage of that.
You absolutely should be taking advantage of that, Larry. I spend a lot of time figuring out how to take advantage of tax loopholes.
Well, if you want to send me $18,000 for having you on this live stream.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Larry. I mean, I see how the numbers do. Maybe I should be paying you. That's right. And so $18,000 is your tax. Yeah. So Patrick Mahomes is out here. Hey, this is free, right? I'm going to spend the money. I'm just going to run up a 6-figure deal. No problem. Fair play. It's a lot of money. Your offensive linemen deserve it. You should give gifts to your offensive linemen in life and in metaphorically as well. But in that, there's no gift tax and there's certainly no added income tax. This is just part of the $18,000 gift exemption. Brock Purdy is giving these guys, and here's my hope, and I do think Brock is smart enough to know that he's hooking them up with leases. If you pick up their leases, and it's a complimentary car from Toyota of Northern California, now it's not anything, right? But if you give them the car, they ran into this with Oprah and her giveaway like 20 years ago. Hey, everyone wins a new car. It's this famous moment in television history. Well, that was in Chicago. Chicago and California have pretty similar tax codes. Illinois and California. That is now income. And by the way, the federal government considers it income. So you just got $85,000 of additional income for a car that you may or may not need and may or may not have wanted. So congrats. You now have to put on an extra $85,000. Oh, and by the way, it's just before the end of the calendar year. So let your tax attorney know that you got something to add to the W-2, as if you don't have enough problems with, jock taxes and living in different states. So I am of the mindset that it is an incredibly thoughtful gift, and I hope it was totally thought through, because $85,000 car is subject to California and federal gift taxes, and it's subject to both California and federal income taxes because it has to be reported. And these guys might not want a new car, much less they didn't even get the test drive.
Brock screwed his lineman over.
I'm saying that Brock gave these guys a headache.
Blocking for him in this Miami game, possibly. Jailbreak on Purdy. He was sacked 12 times. It's all traced back to the fact that he burdened them with taxes, with cars that were given to them for Christmas.
He literally just gave them
sports talk stories in the history of the world.
That's a 5-figure tax bill that he handed him. 5-figure tax bill.
Could you imagine if Brock became like super unpopular in the room now because of his 2024 Christmas gifts?
Oh, he had to make a scene. I'm just going to go full sport. I'm going to go full sports talk heel right now. Oh, Brock just needed everyone to know how generous he is. He gives his entire salary to his offensive line. Yeah, through cars, which now are taxed. And now Zakelj has to figure out where he's going to scrounge up another $5,000, $10,000
working at Denny's on the peninsula to make ends meet so he can pay off the gift that Brock gave him for Christmas.
By the way, life lesson: if anyone ever asks you to accept, like if you ever win something,
right,
you are entitled to ask for the cash equivalent, and always do that. Always ask for the cash equivalent of the thing that you have won, because then the taxes are easy. It takes care of itself.
Excuse me.
Don't drive that car off the lot. That's all I'm saying. Do not sign a title. Just make them give you a 3-year lease on the house.
Does it work like across the board? Like if my wife gives me a really nice romantic present.
No, because you guys
Christmas,
share.
Can I say to her, "Excuse me, can I have the cash equivalent of how will that work for me? Will that be good? Will that
Larry,
help the relationship?"
You can try that. I would hope that you guys have some
Excuse
joint
me,
finances.
the cash equivalent of the.
I tried that in the bedroom one time and I got slapped.
The cash equivalent. Digital Drew, 60 people jumped off the stream as soon as you mentioned the name Corbin Burnes.
Talking about taxes, Corbin Burnes, he's going to have to get a new tax attorney.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I
think about this stuff a lot, Larry.
All right, I figure you'd have a comment on it. 144 Grizzlies, Warriors, 93.
Yeah.
This may have been. How about this? History tonight. This was the first time in Steph Curry's career, which started in 2009, that he has played more than 15 minutes in a game and not made a single bucket.
That's right.
0 for 7 from the field. 6 of his 7 shots were threes. He made 2 free throws, and that was it in 24 minutes.
I watched the entirety of this game, Lair.
Is Steph near the end here? What's
going
on?
No, I wouldn't extrapolate that far. I will say 2 things on this game. One, we knew it was going to be an interesting meshing of Dennis Schroeder's style and the Warriors style, right? And the Warriors need a lot of what Schroeder offers.
Of Schroeder in a Warrior uniform, by the way.
Right. And so he comes in, and it really did look like they were just alternating possessions. This one's for the 4 Warriors, and this one's for Dennis. This one's for and neither of them could get into a rhythm. Memphis played their ass off. They're making everything. And there were a couple of moments where, it's a 14-point lead, an 18-point lead, and you go, hey, if you just go on a run here, you can get this thing within arm's length. You just have to start playing some basketball. And at no point did I see the Warriors start to play with some heart. And I'll call them out straight up. I thought Draymond Green was disinterested from the jump in this game, and he played disinterested, and he got pushed around, and he was more interested in making some point to Zach Edey, which heaven knows what that could be about. I don't know. Maybe it's like a Purdue, Michigan State, who has the worst football team in the Big Ten argument. Like, he was not in this game. Schroeder had no desire to play the Warriors style, and the Warriors didn't really force him to play their style. And this team is 10th in the West now. They don't have any dick around room. They think, we got all the, no, they're 2 games over 500 now. they got Dennis Schroeder conceptually to win now. Like, this is the best move they could make today while, quote unquote, keeping their options open for the future. I don't think there's any moves to be made in the future. And this Schroeder thing looks like it's going to take longer to gel than I think anyone initially expected, save for the most ardent pessimists. And they don't have that kind of wiggle room. So
is Schroeder going to be? It's Schroeder, I believe. Is Schroeder going to be a Warrior at season's end, or does he get reshuffled somewhere else in a bigger deal? And I ask that because I'm looking at some odds here, Dieter, of a bunch of different guys at the trade deadline, and the Warriors are 5-1 odds, fourth choice to get Ben Simmons. They're one of the they're like 10-1 to get.
What are they going to do with
Bogdanovich.
Ben Simmons?
I'm just saying the odds. Okay. They're among the leaders to get Lonzo. They're 5-1 to get Vucevic.
Okay.
They're one of the teams rumored to be interested in Kyle Kuzma. They're 3-1 to get Brandon Ingram. Okay. They're 1-2 to trade for Jimmy Butler, and they're 3-1 to trade for Zion Williamson. There's a lot of people that feel like the Warriors are going big game hunting. What do you think? Is Schroeder going to be part of their big game hunt?
He'd have to be. I mean, fiscally, he'd have to be. I just have a hard time believing that they're going to be able to make the deal. Because right now, Schroeder is less valuable than he was when the Warriors traded for him. You know? Like, he doesn't look good after one game, and that's a very small and inappropriate sample size. But if we just had to, that's all we have. So we just go, he does not look like a fit right now. And that could change come Saturday, right? He can go to Minnesota. They can kick ass. And, hey, it was one bad game. Everyone's entitled to a complete fart of a game. Shart, really. But the idea of, they're going to go get Jimmy Butler, I love the idea. I think that's exactly what they need. But the way that the new NBA bylaws have been written with tax lines, and they're going to need 2 or 3 other teams to get involved. And Mike Dunleavy did a hell of a job to make something out of nothing with the Klay Thompson situation. I just have a hard time believing that he's going to be able to pull a rabbit out of his hat again. Like, there's only one rabbit in there. And the Schroeder deal signaled to me that, hey, we're not confident we can get something actually big done, but we need to do something. So let's take the one in the hand instead of the 2 in the bush. And not a bad trade, but it needs to pan out. We'll see.
Great little video here from the post game tonight. I made some money. I took the Chargers on the money line tonight.
Wow.
I didn't want to mess around with that spread because the spread was 3, 2.5.
Yeah, I hate that number.
And I'm like, you know what? I know the Chargers are going to win at home, but I just don't know if they're going to cover the. So I went money line. I've been winning a ton.
Do you put down $1 like the Chargers do every year for rent?
No, but here's Harbaugh in the locker room.
I can't get enough of this guy's post game.
Here we go. Here's Harbs.
Over things, over things on the wall, over. This is nobody to bring up. Hey, just for everybody, we'll sing it all. We'll sing it to ourselves. Each and every man in here. I mean, every guy that stepped up the opportunity squad. I'm so glad the rest of the opportunity squad is here, baby. Love you. The Spanos family. Love you.
Cheer up the owner.
Sing it loud and proud like we've never sung it before. So it echoes out into the stadium. 1, 2, you know what to do. For he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow. With no one can deny. You go. Hold it down. We will see you Monday. possibly have it better than us?
I love him so much.
You gotta love that. You gotta love that. It will wear out its welcome within a matter of time. But right
I don't
now they're
know.
in the honeymoon phase, and it's a wonderful honeymoon.
I'll tell you, man.
They were fading until tonight. That was a big win.
You're right. You're right. And you pointed out exactly why. It was the rest differential, of course. Nothing could possibly happen if you don't have rest. But I'll tell you, the zeal for football that the Chargers exude, and you want to talk about a culture builder, right? We were going through those teams that need a new head coach. Some of those teams, everyone wants the new offensive mind or the hot shot. Sometimes you just need a culture builder, man. And Harbaugh, it might wear out its welcome. That's for sure. It's happened in a lot of places before, but that dude, I mean, you saw Derwin James. Derwin James is nobody's fool. Derwin James is no sucker. He's all the way in on Jim Harbaugh. He's got Justin Herbert giving speeches post-game. That's not Justin Herbert's ball game. They got an incredible culture going down there with the Chargers, and that is something that is exceptionally dangerous because they're like one draft away, and they're one free agency away from being a force. I'm all in on the Chargers.
Last thought before we get out of here, and we want to thank everybody for joining us on the live stream. Tomorrow, Big Friday, I'll be streaming tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Damon. At 10:45, Chase Sr. will be in the house. Tomorrow night for Niners Nightly, we're also going to visit with Chase Sr. and Curtis Robinson is going to stop by. So
that's a good lead-in. Thanks, Lair.
Yeah, that's coming up on Niners Nightly tomorrow night, and then that will be leading into Dieter, and then so we got a lot going on the next couple of days. A lot of good college football tomorrow night. I can't wait for Notre Dame and Indiana. That's going to be a fantastic game. I like Notre Dame to win the game. Notre Dame is playing really well. They are a very good football team. I was talking to Nick McLeod about them, and he's like, man, they're fun to watch. They got some really good DBs. Freeman's a good coach. Back's a good back. Love. They got a good defensive line. Howard Cross the third. They got a Riley Leonard. They're a good football team. Really, really good secondary. But what I was going to say is one last thought on the baseball front. Interesting article that I read tonight.
The Lorenzen one?
What's that?
Did you read the
what do you got?
Oh, this Michael Lorenzen, the pitcher.
Yeah, the
used to be a two-way player.
Yeah.
So they're suggesting Rosenthal had this thing. I just heard about it on MLB Network Radio. So forgive my loose paraphrasing, but essentially the rule that they built for Shohei Ohtani is that you no longer qualify as a pitcher if you take like 60 at bats. So Lorenzen is suggesting to teams who suck, hey, sign me and give me 60 at-bats to start the season and then trade me so I can still, like, you can pitch and not like the DH rule, like, doesn't apply. So, like, on a day that you start, you can keep the DH all the way through. It's this weird, like, idiosyncratic thing. So read that. They've weaponized the Shohei Ohtani rule with Michael Lorenzen.
That's interesting. No, I was going to say that I'm reading an article talking about the Padres and how the Padres are in a financial crisis.
Yeah.
And the Padres management, I guess, is trying to sell off on a number of their players. They're shopping Luis Arraez, who is, a phenomenal hitter. I mean, and one of the best contact hitters in the game. And today they also said that they're also shopping Jake Cronenworth. And to me, I think this is where, if I'm Buster, I'm putting in a call down there. Why? For two reasons. One, the Giants have nothing but cash. They got great cash. They could take these contracts off of the Padres easily. And I don't think, because the Padres are looking to get out from underneath some money here, I don't think you'd have to give a whole lot. And that's the kind of creative deal that I think the Giants probably should go down the road of making. Cronenworth is a 30-year-old vet. He's under contract with the Padres until the 2030 season.
Yeah.
He's set to earn $80 million over the 7 seasons covered by the agreement. Now, there's no way I'm taking $80 million. But how about this? How about Cronenworth and a rise to the Giants, and they'll take $40 million of that. He was a 2-time All-Star. He can play first. He's a pretty good player. I like Cronenworth quite a bit. He's a power hitting player. But think about it. You got
He has 27 home runs the last 2 years. Where's the power?
Well, I mean, he's got 69 home runs in 5 years. He's played in a big ballpark. He's also played second base a little bit.
He's played 5 years for San Diego. He had 2 All-Star years, got the contract in the last 2 years. He has a sub 100 OPS plus, 385 slugging percentage. His last 2 years have sucked.
Yeah, no, I know. But what I'm saying is you get them to pay the money. You need a rise. A rise is the Giants have way too many guys.
A rise is the most overrated player in baseball.
He makes contact. The Giants have have the biggest swing and miss team there is right now. They just added a shortstop who struck out 173 times.
Yeah, clearly they don't care.
They're a strikeout machine. They need to balance out their lineup with a contact hitter. A rise is an awesome bat to ball skills. This guy can put the bat on the ball. What I'm saying is you get a rise, you put him at second. You get a guy like Cronenworth, you play him at first. And when Eldridge is ready, you got a guy who can play different spots. And to me, I mean, I like Cronenworth if you could take the money aside, get that money out of there. I mean, I don't want him at that money, God knows. But I like him otherwise. He's a solid line drive major league hitter. A rise in
he's not a
Cronenworth.
major.
I mean, think about it. You wouldn't have to give very much. You're just
you're not giving up anything. No.
Yeah,
if you give up anything,
your payment is taking on the money. Your payment is taking the money off of the Padres.
No, your payment should be a prospect or two. They need to attach people to make this deal happen.
You might be able to get more than just what I'm saying. You might be able to sit there and get another piece thrown in there from the Padres.
Now you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful because the Padres are notorious around baseball for so every team
lying about health. You mean?
Well, no, the lying about they promote their prospects beyond the status that they should be promoted because every team in baseball has just a computer system, right? Like nobody actually has full scouting report on every kid on every minor league roster. So what they have is a database, and the database tries to punch out some, big quotient that says if this player is good or not, so that you can go then do a deeper scouting report. So one of the main underlying aspects of all of these quotients, this is across Major League Baseball, is, and we see this even on like Baseball Reference, age versus level. And the Padres, one, lie about their players' age a lot. That's happened like 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years. And 2, they promote their players to 2 or 3 levels above where they should be based on their age so that they can inflate their trade value because teams don't do their homework on these guys. So they say, oh, he's 20 and in Double-A. He must be pretty good. And our system says he's pretty good. So when, the push comes to shove and they say, who do you want? And the system churns out, oh, this guy's pretty good because he's 20 and in Double-A. Well, then, okay, let's take him. And then they get into your system and you go, this guy's like a rookie ball player. This guy's not any good. So you got to be careful about which prospects you get from the Padres.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're the Giants, you have a hard time. Well, you have a hard time signing free agents.
Yep.
You have a hard time making trades because everybody wants Eldridge and your 4 or 5 top prospects, and you don't want to gut your system.
Right.
So you really don't have that many ways to get better since you have a hard time doing it. If you could get them to give you Cronenworth and a rise and take those contracts, you might be able to get them to throw you Dylan Cease, who they're also shopping. And now instead of paying millions and millions and millions for Corbin Burnes, whose numbers were down a little bit last year, you get 28-year-old Dylan Cease, a whole lot lesser of a commitment. I'm just saying there's a deal to be made there because the Padres are looking to move money and the Giants have money, and the Giants could really use they're good on the left side of the infield. They could use some help on the right side of the infield, and they could also use a contact bat, and they could really use a big time starting pitcher. but Burnes is just such a high risk deal. I'm just saying you might be able to get Dylan Cease for in a prospect in a package for a few prospects if you're willing to take on some bad money in Cronenworth and Arise. I think it's worth exploring. It's the
fundamentally
kind of creative deal that I think might check a couple boxes and actually not cost the Giants an arm and a leg. Just an idea.
I'm with you on that. I do think that flashing your money around, buying draft picks, buying prospects effectively. Well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Come on.
Dylan Cease is fucking terrible. What are you talking about?
This is another one too. Everybody gets in this. The Padres are not trading with the Giants. Where do you think the Giants got Kevin Mitchell? They got him from the Padres. The Giants.
What are you talking about?
Teams make trades in the division.
Dylan Cease. What the fuck is this guy talking about? Dylan Cease is no good. Well, he was a 4.2 WAR player last year with a 3.47 ERA and 224 strikeouts and 33 starts. That guy's not good. What are you talking about?
He's a proven innings eater.
He finished fourth in Cy Young voting. What are we talking?
Really
he got MVP votes. Dylan Cease is no good.
Did you watch him in the playoffs? All right.
Yeah. Did you watch him in the playoffs? Did you? By the way, here we go. By the way, everyone's okay because again, Larry sets the table for everyone else to eat at in this media landscape these days. People will say, "Go get Ethan Salas, go get Leo DeVries." Okay,
Anthony Santander. A lot of people are saying.
Listen, I've been a pro Santander guy, but when you're going to go to the Padres and you're going to get a prospect, get Ethan Salas. He's a hot shot prospect.
I don't know
18 years.
Position.
He's a catcher. He's 18 years old. And he's in high A ball.
Right.
And then you go, oh, who's their other he's the 19th best prospect in baseball. Oh, who's the next best prospect? We got this Leo DeVries guy, 18 years old, single A ball. These guys are just inflation is out of control, and nowhere is it more out of control than in the San Diego Padres system. They got this thing gamed, and I know they got it gamed because the Giants started doing this crap last year to sort of counter it, and now everyone's going to start doing it. It's gross. I don't like it.
That's going to do it for us tonight. We got this super from Jeb. We should start Rick and Cowing at X and Z, Deebo and JJ split slot along with George Kittle at tight end. Rick in JC would open up the field. JJ and Deebo could beat a linebacker all day. Thoughts?
Are you familiar with Deebo Samuel and Juwan Jennings right now? Because they are not beating linebackers, they're not beating cornerbacks, they're not beating safeties, and they're not beating linemen.
Maybe in a card game.
Yeah, right. They definitely are beating him with how much money do you have, including Jennings. He's making good bank these days. But I'll say this. I think that the Niners, when I said that they need to kind of drop juice and go to 11 personnel, this guy, imagine dying on the bump over Dylan Cease.
Dylan Cease sucks.
Dylan Cease sucks. Man, I'd love to see who's good.
Yes.
But
you think Dylan Cease sucks? I mean, there's some pitchers around baseball that you should check out.
Are you familiar with Hayden Birdsong?
Oh, my kid, he's awesome.
Yeah, sure. He had two great outings against the Rockies. Got to bet all in on him. But
there's got to be somebody worse.
Certainly there is. Well, I would love to see Sean Jelly. I would love to see 11 personnel because that would put JJ back in the rightful spot. He needs to be a flanker. He needs that space off the line of scrimmage, and he needs to be in a tight split. And watching back that Rams film, Kyle is doing everything to try to get Jennings some cushion at the line of scrimmage. And so they're bastardizing the offense to give JJ a little bit of cushion at the line. And it's like, I got an idea. Play him at Z or play him at flanker instead of X. Get your X up on the damn line and let him play that position. And instead they're mixing the positions. And it's no wonder that Brock doesn't look like he knows where anybody is. They're changing all this shit on the fly. And also that, because JJ can't separate. It's like, well, then don't put him at X. And we need the snaps. Then don't play Kyle Juszczyk. Well, we need him in the run game. Really? I don't see any evidence that you do. So that's where I stand on
Mitchell and Ness. We got two last ones here. Mitchell and Ness says, when will Larry gut? Oh, we got that earlier.
We already
got this one from Federalist, who says, I'm fine with the mistake of signing Brock Purdy and losing. I'm not fine with the mistake of letting Brock Purdy go and being wrong.
Love a good air of commission. That's the only way to live life.
That's well stated.
That is very well. Federalist 45 coming through.
I mean, that's
Radiohead
solid,
fans, so that's that's a knock. But other than that,
don't you think that's? And then of course,
it's an exceptionally astute point.
Astro, I blame Devondre Campbell for everything that happened this season. There you go. It's illogical. It's illogical, but you know what? Who cares? There you go.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Thanks
God
to
bless
Better.
Him. Yep.
Thanks to Better. Thanks to Dieter. Thanks to all of you. Dieter, you are live on the Leader tomorrow night at 7.
Yeah, it's starting to become a thing. Wow, I've really worked my way up. I've spent all these years toiling away, and now I can do the shift that no one else wants because they all have social lives.
There you go. And that is a tease. Join Dieter tomorrow at 7.
Oh, we're gonna do hot take. We're gonna do the wheel of hot takes tomorrow. It's very exciting.
Well, no, you know what you're going to do is you're going to clean up my mess because I'm going to play the Colin Cowherd sound again.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And then I'm going to talk about Brock Purdy at 55 million versus Sam Darnold at 40 million. And then those callers are all going to be on the line for you. And then
leave them for me. And then I get to just yell at them. And then everyone's like, I don't really like this guy. And then yet they keep listening. It's incredible. It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Something
amazing. You haven't made it in this world until a bunch of people tune in every day to make sure to listen to hope that you're failing. You could be.
I'm well on my way, Larry.
Yeah, seriously. We're all there. All right. For Dieter, I'm Larry. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 with Damon. Until then, get some sleep.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful.